Hello and welcome to Shades and Justice Podcast. I'm your host, the one and only Dr. Evelyn Heel. And remember, you can always reach me at www.drevelynheel.net. Guess what, my radio and podcast audience? We have a treat for you today. We have Miss Dola Williams with us, and oh my gosh, what a tremendous amount of work she's done in our community here in Wyandotte County, making a difference for women. So, Miss Dola, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here this evening.
And we are so happy you are here. Well, Dola, let's just jump right in. Can
All
you
right.
tell me a little bit about where you grew up and your family and all of that good information just to get us started?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County. I've been a resident all my life except for the last 2 years, which I thought I would never say, but resident of Wyandotte County. And that's where my heart is. All of my family are
Mhm.
still there. I tell my sisters I'm the oldest and the middle. So there are seven kids older than me. There's like 9 years between me and the youngest of the first set. And then there's me and my younger sister. So I play the middle, and the oldest with them when it's convenient for me. It doesn't work, but I try it anyway. Uh,
Uh-huh.
my dad he was a Sumner graduate back in the day, right?
Wow.
And so I was his tag along. He
Hmm.
passed away though when I was 12. And
Okay.
but I mean, I think I met so many of his friends. He worked for the railroad and all of that. And so between
Uh-huh.
Sumner and working for the railroad, I know lots of, older people that way. And
Uh-huh.
then my mom is still living. She will be 90, still living. What am I saying? My
Wow.
mother is living. She is 90. I guess I said still because I said my dad passed.
Yes.
But my mom is 96 years young and
Wow.
is
That's awesome.
yeah, it is an experience to watch someone age. I don't know if it's graceful to her, but
Mhm.
it's an experience, I can tell you that.
Yes, yes. And do you have children?
Yes, how they would be upset with me. I have three. Look, I just stopped right there, didn't I? So I have three adult children, two
Uh-huh.
girls and a boy. He's in the middle.
Okay.
Carlea, Ellis, and Kaylee.
Uh-huh.
And from them, I have four Lovey's child is what I call them. So I'm Lovey, aka
Okay.
Grandma. They're my
Okay.
Lovey's child, and it's four girls. They are 7, 8, 9, and 10. This year they'll be, those ages.
Uh-huh.
And they are my joy. My kids always say, "Are you still the mother we used to know?" I'm like, "Yes, but I'm their Lovey. I was your mother."
That's
So
right. Lovey is different. It takes
Lovey is
on a
different.
whole new thing. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing
You're
about your
welcome.
family. And
Mhm.
this is the first time I've heard Lovey. I've heard a lot of different names, but Lovey is different, and I like it. I like
I
Lovey.
like
That
Lovey. I don't mind grandma. That oldest one, she has a way of reminding me, you're really my grandma, right? I'm like, yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
she just need to make sure you knew. That's all. That's all.
She's
They're
getting
so
older.
smart. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, one of the things I've noted about you over the years, you have just been consistent in everything you started to do. And I have watched you over the years just continue to be you. And it has seriously blessed me. And I wanted you to know that. But one of the things I noticed was your interest in women's health. And where did you get that passion to work in the arena of women's health?
So, first of all, I want to thank you. That's a beautiful compliment, and I really appreciate that. And you
Mhm.
as well. I think you were probably back in the day one of my first speakers of one of the many things I've done in churches across
Wow.
Kansas. So I appreciate that. Have great
Mhm,
memories. But women's health, I was thinking about that question, and I think it eased up on me over time. So what I listed was childbirth,
mhm,
having a hysterectomy, and then the latest cancer diagnosis that I received in breast cancer diagnosis in 2016. And what the consistent things are over that is the things I wanted to do for prevention or the ways I wanted to take care of myself, uh, wanting or needing extra time off, for
mhm,
childbirth. The hysterectomy was, it was a godsend, but it wasn't. You know how we press through things we shouldn't. So I had been tired for a long time.
mhm,
Ended up, in the doctor's office, and she was like, "Today, you're not,
mhm,
I think I did go home, but the next day was the surgery. But what I didn't get that was education on what it meant for a full hysterectomy versus
yes,
not. So
yes,
that caused all kind of havoc. And
yes,
then and then the cancer diagnosis. So it within those three, things that most women go through, the choice to take care of myself the way I wanted to was not there.
mhm,
It wasn't supported by insurance financially. It
mm,
wasn't that I could go to work and say, I don't need sick days, I need wellness days, so
yes,
you're not supported at work. And then, our fellow strong women were like, girl, we already been through that. We made it. It's like, okay, but I don't want to make it. I want to, I want to be okay, on the other
yes,
end and make
yes,
it. So, that's when, I think the last diagnosis, of course, is the one that I was like, okay, I am over this. We need to
mhm.
just have a voice and we need to talk about things. So I'm gonna let you go on because I could keep going. I think I
Well,
went.
I appreciate you bringing that up
Sure.
because as you was kind of going down memory lane of some of the choices that you really did not experience, as you were talking, I thought to myself, wow, um, I never even thought of it as a choice. I just, different
Right.
things, I just thought I had to do them.
Absolutely.
And so even down to the medication, even the knowledge between a partial hysterectomy and a full hysterectomy, what the effects are on your body. I didn't have a chance to read any of that, never even thought of a partial. It wasn't in the conversation. And it was
No,
one of those things I didn't know that it could have been an option. I just
me
didn't know.
either.
So I appreciate you sharing that so that the listeners can be aware when you
Yes.
go in to ask questions you that may sound dumb to the provider, to the doctor, but it's for your knowledge. It would have been nice to because I experienced some things at a much earlier age than if I had not had this full hysterectomy. My body
Absolutely.
experienced some stuff, and so I just didn't know I had that choice. So I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Well, I
And
have to give, I didn't learn that on my own. It was just sitting around and talking like we're doing now, with
uh-huh,
one of my very good friends. And I was like, I had a choice and what? And that's why this is happening. And so those are the conversations that we don't normally have,
right,
um,
right,
as African American women, and especially with like my mother doesn't talk about anything.
yep.
So we're not talking
Well,
about that, Dola.
yes. Well, my mother probably would have talked about
Hmm.
it, but she died when I was 13.
Oh.
And so a lot of these conversations came from my dad, and by the time he got through, I just didn't even want to be a female. So it's like, oh no. And so, but anyway, we did get through it. Me and my five sisters, we got through it. Uh,
Oh,
so, um, what other information have you gained over the years about women's health? And you specifically said women of color. Um, and maybe you have experienced some things or should have experienced some things where you've seen others receive certain benefits and opportunities and choices where women of color, when it comes to healthcare, have not. But
yeah.
what would you like to share concerning information?
So I think I'm sure you have a broad listening audience. So I'll start with why I did say women of color, and it is because of what you said. In particular, with my breast cancer diagnosis, I immediately noticed the difference in, first of all, in Wyandotte County, there were not services available to me in my county. So,
Exactly.
I
Yes.
I went outside of the county to find those choices, right? Now there were things that I could do, but they didn't, necessarily include choices that I wanted to make for myself. So that
Mm-hmm.
was the first thing. And then uh, I'm also a research coordinator. And so I think I was inquisitive long before that. Like I love teaching and learning and reading.
Mm-hmm.
But in my search for what's going on with me and how am I going to address it, of course, there's the alarming numbers of women, African American women who die from diagnoses that other women don't die from,
Mm.
or other women have the ability or the means to stay at home. You know,
Yes.
they have, it's okay to ask, and let me just say this. I don't know the other side. This is just
Yes.
me observing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I'll give you an example. When I had the cancer diagnosis, I need my washing machine and dryer were in the basement. I was in a three-story house, and I needed
Uh-huh.
someone to come and help me manage that. And for whatever reason, that person didn't come. But their response was when I said, "Oh, okay, don't worry about it. I got it done." It was, "Girl, that's what we do." And I don't think that that is the broad experience, for people who are not of color, and that's
Yes.
brown or white. I think
Right.
that there is
Right.
a
Yeah.
community that we miss because we carry that strong woman banner
Mm.
high,
Yeah. Yeah.
pride, and it's not always to our benefit. So that's why I
Yeah.
started with
Mm-hmm.
African American, because that's near and dear to my heart um, for obvious reasons. But what I want, what I want to share with you, the lessons that I've learned, I think that's that one. We die from things
Yes.
other people don't. Period.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I talked about prevention, education, and choice. We
Mm-hmm.
usually start prevention at the point of I'm sick, here's the diagnosis.
Yes.
Now let's talk about how to, whatever prevention looks like on that side. Like, I don't even understand that. I want to know how about how I can build myself up to warrant against, to strengthen my body, whatever that looks like, so
Mm-hmm.
that if I encounter, because there's no guarantees, right? So if
Uh-huh.
I encounter a diagnosis, I'm at least strong enough to withstand it,
Yes.
choices, and do the things, that I want to do. So prevention from that perspective, and then education. And education, you just can't get enough of it.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, when when I talk about educating myself, I really did have to just muddle through the online, through the internets, you know, and really ask the Lord to show me, okay, which one of these people or things should I really be paying attention to? And He was faithful in that. I won't take up our time. Maybe, at the end when if we have some time, I can share about that. But He really did lead me to some consistent and good information.
Yes.
And then choice. Those three things. I have a choice. I may not have had as wide of a choice when I got to the doctor's office with the hysterectomy, because when I tell you I couldn't figure out why I was so tired, and she couldn't figure out why I hadn't passed out. So
Oh
that.
my. Yes. Yes.
But when it came to my breast cancer diagnosis, when they give you the diagnosis, they throw you into their protocol, boom, 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 you
Hmm.
know, and cancer is, the big C word. It
Right.
scares everybody. So nobody's thinking straight. Nobody's saying, oh, we got time to find this out and find that out. So you get thrown into that,
Yes.
into all of that. And so that is what I learned. I think maybe not so much what I learned, but what was definitely defined in the space of the cancer diagnosis is what you said earlier. We
Hmm.
we don't know we have choice, and so when you start
Yes.
talking to people about, hmm, that's what they said, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think
Yes.
I want to
Yes.
read this over here. I want to read that over there. Uh,
Hmm.
People are afraid, and I don't
Exactly.
know if it's rightfully so or
Hmm.
not. But I think as believers, we decide when we're going to use the word of God, how we want to use it. And we put all these parameters on Him
Hmm.
and all those things. So I learned a lot about myself, spiritually as
Hmm.
well, so that's what I learned. And then talking, those conversations are so important. You and I had a conversation one time, and as we were sharing, you had ahas and I had ahas. Uh,
Yes.
I've
Yes.
been I won't talk about you, but I've been in places where people will say, I'll tell you, I decided I was going to treat myself in between treatments.
Uh-huh.
And I had uh, pineapple, I had citrusy fruits.
Uh-huh.
And that night, I went to brush my teeth, and my tongue was just like zebra. It was, black spotted.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And I called one of my girlfriends. I said, "You got to come get me." Like, I don't know what's happening. But because she had had a conversation, she said, "No, no, no, that happened to such and such. And this is what it
Okay.
is. It's the citrus, the reaction to the chemicals that are in your body, and the
Wow.
citrus." Now, I don't I don't tell anybody not to listen to their medical, care
Exactly.
team and
Yes.
all of that stuff. But
Yes.
the one thing that made me really think about choice was that there were too many things they didn't tell me ahead of time, or they didn't
Yes.
have answers for,
Hmm.
or they were like, no, that didn't happen. And
Yes.
so I learned that I really had to be my own advocate,
Hmm.
when I could be my own advocate. That wasn't always, I didn't always have that ability when I was, going through the first couple of treatments. But I had my
Hmm.
daughter who I had to
Uh-huh.
convince, these
Hmm.
are my notes and these are the things that I want conveyed and how I wanted to go. So those are some of the things I learned. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. We talked about insurance and how it tends to guide the diagnosis as well as the treatment. So,
Yes.
that I wasn't too happy about that. And of course,
Hmm.
the pharmaceutical companies, they're prescribing what's hot on the market
Yes.
today, not
Yes.
really looking at my data.
Right.
Natural care is not affordable,
Right.
so that was a hard lesson to
Yes.
learn. Uh,
Yes.
And for me, stress was the baseline of my diagnosis. So I just feel like for me, the Lord could have been heart attack, diabetes, you know, trip and fall
Wow.
down, whatever.
Uh-huh.
He chose, cancer to kind of get me in check. And so my stress levels across various areas of my life were just, in
Hmm.
calamity. And then
Wow.
genetic data, then this is my last what I learned. And I'm not trying to teach anybody what I'm learning. I'm just sharing, right?
You're
So
just sharing.
I'm
Exactly.
just sharing. So genetics for me is if my mother, my grandmother, or even my great grandmother, if she did a certain thing a certain way, and my my grandmother, and my mother, and I are probably all gonna do it the same way, right?
Uh-huh.
To me, that's the bottom line of genetics on some
Mm.
level,
Uh-huh.
you know. So if I change what my great great grandmother did
Right.
for myself, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to affect my granddaughter and
Mm-hmm.
my great great granddaughter and so forth and so on. So that's the baseline of genetics for me. Now I know that again, genetics is real in the medical world. It does what it does. But if my mother, I don't have any data,
Uh-huh.
you
Right.
know.
Exactly.
I don't have any data. So
Exactly.
those are some of the things that I learned.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
it's very interesting talking to you on these subjects because a lot of times we don't have these kind of deep conversations. We can be among friends and we'll say, "Oh, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about something for fun." But we
Mhm.
got to deal with this stuff. We,
Yes,
as
we do.
especially women, uh, women of that may not be in a prosperous neighborhood.
Mhm.
They that automatically could mean some environmental stuff that we're breathing. Uh,
Absolutely.
it could also be the difference in what we get from the store versus fast food. Like in our community, we just recently got a small grocery store called the Merc, and I absolutely
Yes.
love it. It's full
Yes.
of fresh fruits and vegetables, but before then, we just didn't have anything too much down here that was worth purchasing. And so all of those things, the air you breathe, we're not too far from railroad tracks. That's air quality issues. I mean, there's just a variety of things that often uh, people that don't have the higher net worth are exposed to. And so it definitely has an effect on our health. Now, another thing you mentioned was the pharmaceuticals. Uh, Many of the pharmaceuticals that I see on TV, after they do the dance and song and all of that, in small print, and sometimes somebody will be reading it. It says could cause depression or death or enlarged intestines. And it's like, who wants to take that stuff? So I have learned to pay attention. Um, some of the pharmaceuticals that I have experienced extreme pain in my body,
Yeah.
not from what I was diagnosed with, but
Yes.
from the medicine that I
Absolutely.
was given. And so I didn't know I could say, no, I don't want that medicine. It hurts. It hurts my body.
Hmm.
One particular medicine caused me to bleed. Who in the world will take something like that? And so I just find myself really paying attention now. But when I was in my early years, having children and all that, I pretty much did what they told me. Or, I would ask maybe one or two questions just to get me out of there. But it
Yeah.
wasn't an intense questioning because I'm concerned about my body. And another thing you didn't mention, and I don't know if this was part of what you had to experience, which was chemo. some people call chemotherapy,
Hmm.
and then there's also
Radiation.
the radiation.
Radiation. Hmm.
And so radiation, I didn't know,
Hmm.
has an effect on your body too.
Yes, it does.
I just had no idea. So, you want to talk about any of that a little bit more? Get deeper into.
So I can't really speak to the radiation because
Okay.
that was a choice that I decided I didn't
Okay.
want to do. And I'll
Yes.
just give you just a little bit of my story. Is I was diagnosed at stage 3.
Mm.
So I went to the doctor because my hamburger, fries, and a Coke wasn't going down well. Go
Uh-huh.
figure. uh, and got that diagnosis there. And then they prescribed 8 rounds of chemotherapy. And of course, after that, they want to do the radiation and the five
Yes.
year
Yes.
deal. So in my mind, Dr. Evelyn, I was like, okay, round 1 was okay. Round 2 was not okay. Round 3 was definitely not okay.
Uh-huh.
And somewhere in there, I got it in my mind. I was like, well, if this is this tough, bad, challenging, at
Yes.
this point, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I said,
Uh-huh.
so if the medicine is that strong, why don't we look and see what it's doing? Like, why
Exactly.
not do that? Well,
Yes.
that's not a part of their protocol. Their
Yes.
protocol is to give you, the prescription, you do the time, you do the
Right.
A.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm saying, well, the way I feel, I just feel like you should look to see what's going on to see if we can go ahead and remove the mass. And, I talk to them daily and a lot. And I
Uh-huh.
think they just got tired of me. I know
Uh-oh.
they did.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
they called to make the preparation for the fourth, I thought they were making preparation for the fourth appointment. They were saying, come in. And so they did an exam, an X-ray, or an X-ray might not be the right word, but
Uh-huh.
the mass had decreased, and it was
Wow.
down to a 2 or a number low enough for them to go in and remove
Yes.
the mass. And
Oh.
yes, yes, but I had to be
Mm-hmm.
very persistent. The same girlfriend, I took a nap, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to leave this out because I didn't do this on my own at all. This was the Lord. I woke up from my nap and I told her, I said, her name is Dozier. I said, Dozier, I have done one in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and I'm not doing anymore. And she's got these big, beautiful eyes, and they just got bigger. And she was like, Dola, I don't want to tell your family. I don't want to tell nobody that. I was like, that's between me and you and the Lord. But this is what
Yes.
he told me.
Yes.
And so that's when I went on that journey of, really looking. I was like, if you're not looking, how do you know what it's doing? And
Right.
you're not
Right.
telling me enough to take care of myself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my family's scared. So
Yes.
they
Yes.
scared. So
Yes.
there's that. So that is one of the things that happened. So I made the choice. You want to talk about chemotherapy and radiation. So after those 3, they removed the tumor. They wanted me for some reason to finish. That was
Mm-hmm.
no, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The radiologist, it was like good cop, bad cop, and I was like, no. So, and then the 5 year pill, that
Yes.
was no. And, Dr. Evelyn, that was in 2016. And here we
Yes.
are today. And I can only praise and thank God for that. But in your previous comments, you talked about immediate side effects, bleeding
Yes.
and all those.
Yes. Yes.
It's so what I'm dealing with is the residual side effects of
Yes.
chemotherapy. That's very
Yes.
real. And it's very different than my when I went back to work, I cried. I cried
Mm-hmm.
for almost a month. And my son was always on the phone like he was my office mate because I couldn't get it together.
I
You
see.
know, we do a lot
Mhm,
of different work, a lot of different projects, and I just did not have it,
mhm,
in my mind to do all of that anymore. And so he, it was my daughter before while I was sick, but it was him when I got back to work just
mhm,
to help me find a balance mentally. And
mhm.
so for some people, it was like, oh, everybody forgets things when they get old. And, you're getting older. I was like, no, 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 no. This is not that.
Uh-huh,
No,
uh-huh,
this is
right.
not that even today.
Mhm,
I have two very good elementary school classmates. I grew up in a neighborhood of boys.
uh-huh,
And so these two uh, are my very good friends.
uh-huh,
And I have gotten turned around. Like I lived in Wyandotte County all my life,
uh-huh,
but there are times when I can be in a space and I just have to pull over
uh-huh.
and call somebody because getting my boundaries doesn't
Yes,
always work.
yes,
So first I got to call somebody and let them know I'm having a moment.
yes,
I'm
yes.
right here at 7th. I was looking for the Willa Gill Center one day.
Uh-huh.
I was at 7th Street. I lived off of 7th Street.
Right,
And
right,
I was on
right.
7th and Parallel confused
Yes,
about
yes.
where I was, where's the
Mhm,
Willa Gill Center, how to get back there. And one of my friends just had to talk me, go down here. And
yes,
he was first like, girl, you know what? I was like, this happens sometimes.
yes.
I just know that that is a side effect,
Some
of
of the residual
yeah,
from the
yeah, the residual
medication.
side effects. And
Yes,
so
yes.
there's different for everybody, you
Right,
know,
right.
and not to say that I'm not getting older and those things are not happening, but there's a difference.
There he is.
There's a difference. And the
Absolutely.
combination doesn't help,
Right.
if they're both going on. It just doesn't help.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your candid conversation. And it's just so important that our radio audience, to women, period, really take care of yourself. Go beyond what the doctor says. Do research on your own. I began to research different stuff because different things happened to me. I didn't want to talk to everybody about it. And so um, I learned to just research. I asked the doctor more questions, and one doctor, my oncologist, I was asking questions about the medication, and he finally just said, "Well, uh, you just have to live with it. If you choose to take this you just live with those side effects." And I said, well, according to the information that I've read, the research, it only helped at 5%. Uh, that's the only amount of help. It just might help 5% if you take this medication. I'm going, 5%.
That was
And
me with the
then so
radiation.
that's when I realized, okay, well, maybe I need to make some different choices.
Yeah,
So this has been a phenomenal conversation. I want to switch over real quick
sure.
to
Uh-huh.
your own business. Tell us about this new business that you just started.
So I have an incubator business, and it
Uh-huh.
is going to be called hashtag redefining strong. It's going to be somewhere in that space. And
Uh-huh.
it actually birthed out of the healing process, right? Because
Hmm.
I told you earlier, it could have been diabetes, this, that, or the other. But also during
Yes.
that convalescent time, the Lord just really showed me the mess
Yes.
that I was in, spiritually, financially, mentally, and
Hmm.
physically. And so,
Yes.
and there are two, three others that he gave me, but um, those are the four that I had to zoom in on. And
Uh-huh.
so he's been giving me, content to share with other women, but we're not quite there yet for that. So that's redefining strong.
Hmm.
Um, but recently, myself and four other board members, we have I Can, so it's capital I, capital
Uh-huh.
CAN dot Sir, and
Okay, I can serve.
exclamation
Yeah.
point, exclamation
Uh-huh.
point, I can serve. And Dr. Evelyn, there's just a lot of men telling me what I couldn't do. And
Yes. Yes.
so I'm like, I can serve.
You can do it.
Yes,
Yes,
I
absolutely.
can, sir. Yes, I did.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it is based on those three pillars I talked about: prevention, education, and choice.
Yes. Yes.
Roger Crawford, many of us know Broderick. I
Yes.
pour his ear out every time I talk to him, and he ended up introducing me to a lot of great people who were already in the space of
Uh-huh.
addressing African American health and breast
Yes.
cancer and all of that. And so, in building those relationships and continuing to talk like we're doing now, iCancer won one of the first Project Crawford Community Awards. And
Mhm.
so, with that award, we're our 501c is pending because of that. But we also have funds to support African American women in Wyandotte County those
Wow.
funds. And what we're doing with that is just what we talked about, where insurance stops,
Yes.
and you talked about radiation.
Yes.
I don't have a story for radiation, but I do know that sometimes the things that our doctors prescribe to us is not for our melanin skin,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it does.
Yeah.
So we out
Yeah.
there trying to find stuff at the health store, and those little bottles start at $15. And
Yes.
so, so we have funding to help
Yes.
support, people who are taking those extra steps to take care of themselves. There are women who have decided they're going to the Mayo Clinic,
Yes.
in Texas. And so uh, food,
Yes.
that housing and transportation, your application could include that, and anything in between that you
Mm-hmm.
figure out. If it's about bras and all those kind of things, there are agencies that we're friends with that we can connect women to. But those things that you just wouldn't think about and that are
Mm-hmm.
personal to you and your journey is what
Mm-hmm.
that funding is for. And then, not to leave anybody out, we have our first journal, which is on Amazon. It's Living Your Best
Wow.
I Can Certified.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's called
Listen,
I Can. Is that the
it's
name of
it's
the journal?
called Living Your Best I Can Life.
Oh my gosh.
And so
And
it's a plain journal. It doesn't have, it has a message in the front and a message on the end. But it was also my way of, removing the fear of doing something,
yes.
experiencing something new and all of that. And I'm a journaler. So, but that the proceeds from that book we'll use to help women outside of Wyandotte and to keep our funds, going,
Yes.
sustained
Yes.
for that first group. So that's Redefining Strong coming soon. And then I Can Sir, you can find us. We have a website, and it is
Okay.
I can,
Please. I can.
sure,
Uh-huh.
I can dash sir.org.
Okay.
And then we have a Facebook group where you can find everything that's up and coming, pretty consistent with that. And that's I Can Sir. So
Okay. Wow.
we were inviting ourselves places. Now people kind of know about us, and they're saying, "Oh, would you like to?" I'm like, "Well, sure," because I wasn't afraid to say, "Can I come to your event and be a vendor?" And so that's where we are. I'm really excited about that.
Yes. Well, congratulations on all your
Thank
great
you.
successes. And I am so grateful for you making your choices because you are still here, beautiful,
Thank you.
live from New York. No, this is Kansas City, Kansas, live from KCK, doing well. And we are so glad you are still a prominent force here in our community.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you, and I
And
praise
thank
God for
you.
it.
Yes, yes, we give God all the glory.
All the
Amen.
praise. Yes.
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 And I just want to thank you again for being on our show tonight. This has been just wonderful. And again, I like to say to our audience, please check out her Facebook page. I Can Serve.
It's I Can, the Facebook page is I Can Sir. So it's SIR.
Uh-huh.
I Can Sir, exclamation point. That's the Facebook group.
Okay.
And then the website is
Okay.
ican-sir.org. SIR.
.org. Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. All
Yes.
right. Well, until next time, this is Shades and Justice Podcast with Dr. Evelyn Hill at www.drevelynhill.net. Until next time, bye bye.
Bye bye.